I get a lot of people asking me how we were blessed to walk away from corporate America in our early 30s. Well, listen, I don't want to keep that a secret. I want to share it with the world. And so maybe you're listening to this podcast and you're trying to figure out, how do I even get started on my journey of entrepreneurship and getting to a level of freedom? Well, text the word freedom to 737-777 9909. Enter your information in, and we look forward to sharing some information with you. A proven system with small overhead, right? That you can do part-time, spare time, right from the comfort of your home, and have amazing mentors, coaches, and a community of entrepreneurs who are willing to support you and help you on your journey to freedom. Welcome to Code Freedom. I'm your host, Eddie Bales. Have you ever felt stuck? Have you ever felt like there's got to be more than life than the reality that you see every day? Tune in weekly, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays as we crack the codes to freedom in every area of your life. Welcome to Code Freedom. This is your host, Eddie Bales, and this is episode 193. And today's episode is going to be a different episode because we're going to talk about Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick Boseman's estate was finally settled, and it was a $3.8 million estate, which is really kind of surprising because I know that he would have probably earned way more than that. So that's something I'm scratching my head on a little bit with all the movies and all the things that he did. But it was 3.8 million nonetheless. His wife gets 1.15 million. His family gets 1.15 million. The government gets 1.5 million in fees because he didn't have a will or a trust. Probate court alone took $900,000. And so, why is this important? Because if we're talking about freedom, and we're going to talk about legacy for our next generations, then we got to have our paperwork in place. We got to have our affairs in order. And, he is one of many that did not have a will in place. Like for instance, Prince didn't have a will. Aretha Franklin didn't have a will. Martin Luther King didn't have a will. Matter of fact, this last I heard, Martin Luther King's children were fighting over his Nobel Peace Prize and his Bible. The sons wanted to sell it, and the daughters wanted to keep it in the family. And so now you have family who are fighting and arguing because he didn't have his name on that piece of paper. Michael Jackson, he had a will, but it took a little while for them to find it. And so you just think about the legacy that's created going forward by not having access to these types of things. These things are extremely important. And so for those of you who may or may not know, this is actually something that I help people with on an everyday basis. So if you don't have a will, I'm urging you to reach out to me, and I'm happy to help you with the solutions that we have. We can help you get a will for way less than what I call a 2 for $20 at Applebee's versus paying $500 to $1,000 to get that will done. And so, definitely reach out to me. But again, there's so many other celebrities who did not have a will. Let me give you some other ones. Kurt Cobain didn't have a will. Um, let's see, Amy Winehouse didn't have a will. Jimi Hendrix didn't have a will, and Tupac didn't have a will. And there's so many others. I mean, there's a long, long, long list of celebrities. Bob Marley didn't have a will. And these are people who, Marvin Gaye didn't have a will. These are people who had the means to get a will. It's one thing when you don't have the means to do it necessarily. You're trying to juggle paying the rent or the mortgage and getting your will. But it's another thing when you have the means to do it and you don't. It has to be a priority. It has to be a focus. Like, even for myself, anytime that I'm attending a funeral, I'm always thinking, okay, is my family good if I'm not around? Financially, what will people say about me, when I'm not around? What legacy am I leaving? That's one of the reasons why this podcast was started. Look, my children will be able to listen to this podcast over and over and over and over and over and hear thoughts and ideas that their father or their grandfather or their great grandfathers shared. I plan on, of course, putting out some books and some courses and a bunch of other things. But my point is, I want to have impact in the world, But what good is having impact in the world if we do not leave impact for our family? If we don't leave that lasting legacy for our children's children to continue to grow. The Bible says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And in order to do that, you gotta put some things in place. You gotta have the paperwork and the legalities and all the things that go together to make sure that your family is taken care of. We had Josh Eggleton talking about insurance, and yes, insurance is not just for when you pass; it's for when you live. But you also do want to have some things in place for when you pass, if that makes sense. So having all these things in place is really one of those things that we got to talk about. And I just wanted to bring it to you all's attention and just encourage you and urge you, for those of you who listen to this podcast, look, freedom is also about legacy, and legacy is, put it like this: imagine your children being able to have an upper hand because of something you did. Like, I don't know about everyone here on this line, but I know that I didn't have an upper hand. I didn't have a one hand up because of my great grandfather or grandfather and things of that nature. So I want to be that for my family. I want to make sure that the Bales tree will never be the same because of things that I'm doing today. Because it only takes one Michael to change the Jordan tree. It only takes one Michael to change the Jackson tree. It only takes one Oprah to change the Winfrey tree, right? And we get a chance to decide what's going to happen for our legacy. But we got to get our affairs in order. We got to do those things today. We got to be looking at them, thinking about them, making sure that things are in place so that your family is set up and your family is good. And the government isn't taking everything, right? We got to have that will in place, a will and or a trust, right? And of course, a trust is actually, in some ways, many ways, better. Uh, but a will is certainly suitable for the average person. A trust is more expensive, but a will still get you right. It'll if you have a will, it's a whole lot better than not having a will. And then the trust is like the next level of that. So again, do you have your affairs in order? Have you updated your will? And even if you have one, you should get it updated. True story. There's a guy who I'm gonna just tell you a couple stories around this whole topic because again, this is something that I'm passionate about. I talk about often. But there was a guy who had a will, and he got remarried, and he never updated that will. Well, guess what? You could just imagine what happened. Everything went to the ex-wife because he never updated the will. Can you imagine being that wife, and or even the kids more than anything? And everything is going to the ex-wife because you didn't update that. So even if you have a will, make sure you keep it updated on a regular basis. And also, I'll tell you another story. There was a guy who was I think it was between 18 and 20. He was a young guy and he gets hit by an 18-wheeler truck. And this gentleman, he dies right on the scene. Well, his estate was awarded money, like thousands of dollars, like to the tune of maybe like around 80,000 or more. And he didn't have a will, obviously. What 18 to 20-year-old has a will? Well, I did when I was 20 because when I heard this story, I got mine done right away. Even if I thought I didn't have anything, I still did it, right? And now, of course, I've updated it since I've, had an expansion in life, if I should say. But his estate was awarded $80,000. The dad, who was not involved in his life, comes in with an attorney and gets all that money, and mom gets nothing. And so again, just imagine if he'd have got his will done, even though maybe alive he didn't have much, his estate ended up being worth some money, and his mom would have gotten all of that, especially being a single mom. So I tell you these types of stories because these are stories that I hear every day on a regular basis, and it would be a shame for us to live our life and show up and work and build assets and build a life of freedom, build businesses and build a lifestyle just to leave that and leave it into shambles because we didn't dot our I's and cross our T's. We didn't put our name on that piece of paper. We call it a love letter in my business. We call it a love letter to your family because you get a chance to let your family know how you want things to play out versus the state or the government deciding what's going to happen, deciding the fate of your family, of your family's assets, what belongs to you anyway. And so it's just one of those things. I've seen families fight over things just because someone's name wasn't on that piece of paper, and it didn't even have to be a lot of money either. It could be, like I said, it could be something that has sentimental value, like a Bible, like a watch, like something, anything, and you get a chance to dictate and decide how things happen, how things go, just by having your name on that piece of paper. So whether you reach out to me or you find an attorney and pay big money to do it, it doesn't matter. But just do it, just get it done, and make sure you keep it updated because things change. You have children, new children into your life. Maybe you get a new home, new business, all kind of different things. Get it, but also be mindful of keeping it up to date because you never know when that time comes. We know our birthday, but we don't know our death date, and death doesn't have an age attached to it. So it's something that we want to keep at the top of our mind. Not something that we like to think about or talk about on a regular basis, but we all know that that day and that time is coming, and we just don't know when. So it behooves us to make sure that we get our affairs in order, for not for us. It's not really for us. It's for our family. It's for our legacy. It's for the people who you leave behind that you love. So I hope you guys get some value from this episode. This is episode 193, and we will see you on the next episode. Take care. Take charge. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys for listening. Definitely feel free to take a screenshot of this episode, tag me in it on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you find me on social media. I would love to give you a shout out. Hey, you might even get a prize. Who knows? But excited that you had a chance to take a listen. I hope you got a lot of value. And definitely feel free to give us 5 stars as well as a review. Show us some love, and we appreciate you. God bless you all, and see you all over the top.